I've long maintained that EVs in the Philippines are fashion accessories. Not because they don't serve a purpose, but it's because the price range is not that friendly yet. I've experienced the Hyundai IONIQ 5 before, and I was very curious to find out what their latest EV creation is like. And as far as I can tell, I like it a lot. Let me introduce you to the Hyundai IONIQ 6. Now I want to talk to you about the most important part to me. I feel like it's my favorite part about the IONIQ 6 is the way it looks. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, I like the IONIQ 5 more because it looks more futuristic and whatever, but I think the IONIQ 6 captures the essence of what the IONIQ 5 is trying to go for in a more classic design. It is one of the most beautiful cars I've seen in a long time that's made mass production, and that's coming from the brand that gave us the Hyundai Matrix. So that's saying a lot. They've come a long way. This is really such a looker. It has so much lines. It's not so angled. It's not so futuristic. It appeals to the people who want a car that looks modern, but also wants a car that looks stylish. The rear particularly is my favorite part because it looks kind of like a Citroen DS, if you know what that looks like. So it's classy and stylish, very cool to look at, and I swear I can't stop staring at this car. It is so very gorgeous. So now we're inside the IONIQ 6, and just like the exterior, Hyundai made a very big effort to make it feel special, something very stylish. And I like the Hyundai way. You know, when people think about EVs, they usually just make it as futuristic as possible. A lot of metal here, a lot of weird angles here and there, but Hyundai's approach, for me, is the best approach in the sense that they make it modern, but at the same time, it's very tasteful. It's done very well. So the interior, based on the brochure, is supposed to be a cocoon type. They want the car to cocoon you and make you feel like you're in some safe space. And you get that here. You have these very modern touches, like these two big screens here. The gauge is fully digital, shows you all the information that's relevant to your car. On the right side is the infotainment system. It's fast enough. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You can tweak a lot of things about the car here on this screen. And the other nice touch is this center stack here where your wireless charging is. You have your cup holders, and you actually have your window controls here because they're not here, because over here you get the nice big mesh covering for the Bose speakers. Actually, this reminds me of another older Korean car, the Daewoo Racer. So if there are any viewers who know what that is, you know what I'm talking about. The window switches are here in the middle. You're moving on to this cubbyhole here, but the most fantastic thing about this center stack is this space here under, where you can put a lot of things. I was able to fit a hardbound book here the other day under here in this cubbyhole. And the interior, it really makes you feel like they thought about how people who are into style and luxury would want an interior to be. The leather is very nice, it's very soft. You have soft touch materials on the steering wheel. Everything you see or touch is made to a certain standard, and that's nice. But you also get other things that you're not really sure about, like this panel, for example. I'm okay with the design, this ripple design, but once you touch it, it's just this hard plastic, which would have been nicer if they put maybe cloth or some sort of synthetic leather material. That would have just removed the budget feel from it. But it's such a big panel, it's hard to miss that it's, again, hard plastic. But other than that, it's perfectly fine. I have no qualms about the interior whatsoever. You even get mood lights, you get a small sunroof. It's not panoramic, but you have one anyway. So sitting in the IONIQ 6 is nice, it's relaxing. There's no fuss, there's nothing wrong with it. And they really thought about features that would make your driving even better, even more hassle-free. Like, for example, if you put the car in park and you turn it off, the seat reclines for you on its own. So it's all those nice things that you would find in more expensive luxury cars. They put that here in the IONIQ 6, so that's good. Now that we've stopped safely on the side of the road, I can talk to you about the second row of the IONIQ 6 because there actually are some things to talk about. Like, for example, the amount of space you get here in the back. You have a lot, and this is my driving position, and look how much leg room I have. I can bend over, I can do so many things. The headroom's a little bit cramped, but not so bad, because I think the design of the car, it slopes towards the rear. So what do you get? Armrest, 2 cup holders, you have 2 USB-C ports. Above the USB-C ports, you also get 2 air conditioning vents. And here, you also have heated seats. Interestingly, they aren't cooled. The 2 front seats have the function of being cooled and heated, but if you're in the rear, sadly, you can't cool yourself, with the seats at least. But most interesting for me is that down here, there is a socket wherein you can charge your laptop or any other device that needs to be used. You can do whatever you want to do here in the second row of the IONIQ 6. But of course, the question on everybody's mind is, what is the IONIQ 6 like to drive? Because it's an EV. And just like any other EV, it's quiet. Although there's this one weird feature where you can go into the screen here and you can turn on this like synthetic sound wherein it makes like a warping sound when you're like accelerating. Honestly, it's very annoying, and I would suggest that you never use it. But anyway, what's it like to drive? It's as you should expect. Relaxing, quiet, no fuss. It's an EV. That's what it's supposed to be. I can imagine that the trees here that you see right now are waving at me and smiling and saying, thank you for saving the earth. But that's not the important thing. What does it feel like? Well, honestly, it's okay. I can't say that the car is actually doing anything particularly special, but because it's an EV, the torque is instant. If I floor the accelerator right now, Kelvin will be relegated to flying out of the window. But in a sense that the IONIQ 6 does it pretty well. It's not harsh in the sense that it's going to hurt you. It's just a surge that will surprise you and somehow excite you. The powertrain makes about 230 horsepower, so that's more than enough to make you go very quickly in a very short amount of time. But what really sets for me the IONIQ 6 apart is that it feels sort of sporty. It wants to, because of the low center of gravity, it's a sedan, it drives well. Although if you drive it around corners very quickly, which I tried to do the other day, you can feel the heft. It is an EV, so there's a lot of batteries in this car. It is a very heavy car. So if you're prone to motion sickness as a passenger and the driver decides to take the twisties very aggressively, you might throw up. But again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's not what the IONIQ 6 is supposed to be. It's supposed to be doing this, gently cruising on a highway at a decent speed, just relaxing everybody in the car. Although I have to point out that when I did try to drive it a little aggressively during some hard cornering situations, it's not sporty in the sense that you can say, oh, it's a sports sedan. It's not a sports sedan. It's not as precise or as delicate as watching a ballerina do her thing. It's not like a figure skater doing, their thing. It's more like, how do I point it out? It's aggressive, but not necessarily delicate. It tries to be sporty, but it really isn't. And that, again, is not a bad thing. That's perfectly fine, because you shouldn't be driving this car on the track anyway. There are other cars for that. If you bought this, what you expect is something relaxing, something comfortable, and that's exactly what you get in the IONIQ 6. Safety is one of the most important things to Hyundai. So of course, the IONIQ 6, being one of their feature models, has a complete ADAS system. Right now, as you can see, we're following one of the patrols on the highway, and the car is doing everything for me. It's this radar cruise control, it's adjusting its own speed, its own distance, and all of those things. It also has lane keep assist, which I have to say is one of the best in the system. I actually like that the car is not so angry when I take my hands off the wheel. It's like, no, put your hands back on the steering wheel, immediately you're going to crash. No, it just lets you have enough time to, I don't know, check a message or grab your drink or all those things. It has enough leeway to not be intrusive. So it's nice to know that the system, the ADAS system in the IONIQ 6 works very well. And I think that's one of the best things about this car. Before I forget, I need to talk about the range, because this is an EV after all. So when I got the car yesterday, it was at 64%. I brought it to a establishment which had a charger, and it was considered one of the faster free charging spaces in the metro. And from 64%, maybe let's say about 60% to 100%, it was about 3.5 hours to 100%. And 100% battery charge gets you around 500 plus kilometers. That's give or take, because like for example, if I turn off the air conditioning right now, the range will go up. And if I turn it on, see, so if I turn it off, it says 485. If I turn it on again, it'll go down. So those are a lot of, there are a few things that contribute to the range that you get in this car. But 500 plus kilometers is perfectly fine. I mean, we're here right now on the way to Subic. When I picked up Kelvin and Carlos, actually, in Carlos's house in QC, I was at 96%. We're here in the middle of SETEX, and we still have 80%. And the car says we have 463 kilometers to go. So it's more than enough. And I can say that maybe it's not so bad. I guess they did a good job of making this car have enough range so that your anxiety, I'm not saying that there's no range anxiety. That's impossible, because we still live in a country that has very little infrastructure for EVs. But it helps to know that I can drive this for another 464 kilometers and not get scared as to where I'm going to charge it. It's just good to know that the IONIQ 6 has enough to make you feel secure without necessarily thinking about, oh no, am I going to make it? Am I going to conk out in the middle of the road and not, you know, be able to drive it anymore? So in terms of range, the IONIQ 6 has enough. I said earlier during the intro that I find EVs to be fashion accessories. And for an EV to be truly a fashion accessory, it needs to be desirable. And with my experience so far with the IONIQ 6 is that it's one of the most desirable vehicles I've driven in a long time. And that's saying a lot, because I'm not necessarily sold on EVs, but I really, really want this. I think it's one of the most emotional cars I've driven in a while. It makes you feel good that you're driving it, makes you feel relaxed. It has all these host of emotions that it makes you feel as a vehicle, and I think it succeeds in that. However, it comes with a pretty penny, because this car costs 3,798,000 pesos, which puts it in a territory where you can buy things like the Nissan Z or Honda Civic Type R or all the other performance cars that are out in the market today. While this isn't in that class, I think it can satisfy your needs in terms of some sort of performance without the compromise of emitting any carbon dioxide from, of course, because it is an EV. So if you want something truly stylish, truly desirable, and something that will make you feel good while you're driving it, then the Hyundai IONIQ 6 is probably the right car for you. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel below, and also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. This has been Pablo Salapantan of YugaAuto. Thank you for watching. Paalam.